They didn't attack your argument, they attacked you. And that is how you know you touched the truth. In the next minutes, you are going to understand why certain people attack your character the moment they cannot refute your point, how this tactic works in dark psychology and narcissistic dynamics, and how to protect yourself without losing your clarity. I am J.R. Marin, and here in Obscure Mindscapes, we decode the dark side of human behavior. There is a moment in certain conversations where everything changes. You are speaking calmly, you are naming facts, you are describing what happened, you are holding a boundary or asking a direct question, or pointing out a contradiction. And then you see it, the shift, the temperature drops, their eyes change, their tone sharpens. And suddenly, the conversation stops being about the truth and becomes a trial against your identity. Instead of answering what you said, they start attacking who you are. That is ad hominem. Most people learn it as a logical fallacy, a debate error, a childish tactic. But in the real world, especially in manipulation and narcissistic relationships, ad hominem is not an accident. It is a psychological weapon. It is a mechanism of silence. It is what people use when the truth threatens their control. Because the goal is not to prove you wrong. The goal is to make you doubt yourself so deeply that you stop speaking at all. To understand how this works, you need to see the three masks of ad hominem. Three faces. Three ways a manipulator tries to erase your credibility without ever touching the facts. The first mask is the direct insult, the most obvious form. This is when they can't answer you, so they try to hurt you. They call you stupid, crazy, dramatic, emotional, insecure, weak, obsessive, bitter, jealous, needy, unstable, or pathetic. They reduce your entire message into a defect. They make your truth sound like a symptom. And here's the psychological reason this is so effective. Insults trigger shame, and shame disrupts cognition. When you feel ashamed, your brain shifts from clarity to survival. You stop thinking about the point you are making, and you start thinking about how you are being seen. You start defending your image instead of defending your truth. That is the trap, because the insult is not the argument. The insult is the distraction. The manipulator wants you to abandon the subject and enter the emotional arena where they have more power. They want you to react. They want you to break composure so they can point at your reaction and say, "See, this is why no one takes you seriously." And if you are dealing with a narcissistic personality, this often comes from what psychology calls narcissistic injury. When a narcissist feels exposed, corrected, or challenged, their ego experiences it as humiliation. They do not experience disagreement as normal. They experience it as threat. So they respond with attack, not to clarify the truth, but to restore dominance. That is why the insult often comes right after you set a boundary. Not because you did something wrong, but because you removed their access. The second mask is circumstantial invalidation. This is more subtle and far more common. This is when they don't insult you directly, but they claim your message is invalid because of your situation, your past, your identity, your emotional state, or your supposed motives. They say things like, "You're only saying that because you're insecure. You're only reacting because you've been hurt before. You're only upset because you're jealous. You're only talking like that because you want attention. You're only pointing that out because you're bitter." Notice what happened. They didn't address what you said. They created a story about why you said it. They turned your truth into a psychological flaw. This is one of the most dangerous forms of ad hominem because it can sound intelligent. It can sound like insight, but it is manipulation dressed as interpretation. When someone tries to diagnose your motives instead of addressing your message, they are not being deep. They are dodging accountability. And in toxic dynamics, this often overlaps with gaslighting. Because if they can make you believe your perception is contaminated by your emotions, then you will hesitate to trust yourself. You will start questioning your own reality. You will start asking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am imagining things. Maybe it's my trauma speaking. And yes, trauma can affect perception, But that truth is often weaponized by manipulators to invalidate you. They use your wounds as leverage. They use your sensitivity as proof you are unreliable. They use your history as a muzzle. This is why ad hominem feels like a mechanism of silence. It doesn't just attack your point, it attacks your right to have a point. Now, the third mask is to provoke. This is the reversal. This is when you confront them about something real, and they respond by accusing you of something else, usually something vague, exaggerated, or unrelated. You say, "You lied to me." They reply, "Oh yeah, and you're so perfect?" You say, "You disrespected my boundary." They reply, "And you never make mistakes?" You say, "I need honesty." They reply, "You're the one who does that too." To provoke is not accountability. It is deflection. It creates false equivalence. It tries to make every accusation symmetrical so no one has to take responsibility. It turns the conversation into a messy swamp where truth becomes impossible to identify. And this is where people get trapped for years because they think the conversation is still about solving the problem, when in reality, the conversation has been hijacked into confusion. The manipulator is not trying to resolve anything. They are trying to exhaust you. They are trying to drown the truth in noise until you stop bringing it up. This is why in many narcissistic dynamics, every serious conversation ends the same way. You start with a clear issue. You end up defending your character. You end up apologizing for your tone. You end up feeling guilty for bringing it up. And somehow they become the victim. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a system. Now let's make something painfully clear. If someone attacks you personally instead of addressing your point, it does not automatically mean you are right about everything, but it strongly suggests one thing. They are not engaging in good faith. They are not seeking truth. They are seeking control. And once you see that, you have to change how you respond. Because the worst thing you can do is accept the frame they set. When they insult you, do not argue about whether you are insult worthy. When they invalidate your motives, do not plead for the right to feel. When they use to provoke, do not chase every side accusation into a labyrinth. Instead, you re-anchor to the original point. You can do it calmly and you can do it briefly. You can say, "We can talk about me later, but right now we are talking about what you did." You can say, "That's an attack on my character, not an answer to my question." You can say, "If you want to address my point, address my point. If not, this conversation is over." And that last sentence matters because boundaries are what break ad hominem. Ad hominem thrives when you stay trapped in defending your identity. So you stop defending your image and you start defending your reality. If this is starting to feel familiar, if you are realizing how many times you have been pulled into these traps, subscribe right now. Do not let these patterns keep operating in the dark, especially if you are rebuilding your self-trust. Now, there is something even deeper behind ad hominem that most people miss. The personal attack is not just a tactic to win, it is also a test. It is a way to measure how much power they still have over you. Because if they attack you and you collapse, they learn that shame still controls you. If they attack you and you start over-explaining, they learn that you can be dragged into endless justification. If they attack you and you become desperate for approval, they learn that your boundaries are negotiable. But if they attack you and you stay grounded, something breaks. Not in them, necessarily, but in the illusion that they can rewrite your reality. And that is why manipulators escalate when ad hominem doesn't work. They move from insult to smear, from invalidation to isolation, from accusation to reputation destruction. Because if they cannot control your mind internally, they try to control how others see you externally. That is character assassination, and it is often the next stage. So what do you do if you are dealing with someone who uses ad hominem consistently, especially in a narcissistic dynamic? You do three things. First, you name it internally. Even if you do not say it out loud, you identify what is happening. You are not in a conversation, you are in a control attempt. Second, you anchor to the subject. You refuse the detour. You do not debate your worth. You do not debate your tone. You do not debate your past. You address the behavior, the fact, the boundary, the question. Third, you decide how much access this person gets to you. Because someone who attacks your identity to avoid accountability is not a safe person to build intimacy with. Not in love, not in family, not in friendship, not in work. They might be charismatic, they might be persuasive, they might sound confident, but the moment you bring truth, they bring violence. And that tells you everything. This video is powerful, but it is still an introduction. If you want the full arsenal, the link to the book is below. In the book, I break down the deeper patterns that surround these tactics, how manipulators pair ad hominem with gaslighting, intermittent reinforcement, and trauma bonding, and how to rebuild the self-trust that these dynamics try to destroy. Because at the end of the day, ad hominem is not just an insult, it is a message. And the message is this: I can't win against your truth, so I will try to make you afraid to speak it, but you are allowed to speak it anyway. So now I ask you a question that matters. Have you ever been attacked personally right after you said something true, something clear, something undeniable, and the other person had no real answer? Tell me in the comments, not just what they said, but what you realized in that moment. And now that you understand ad hominem, you need to understand what usually comes next, because many manipulators don't stop at attacking your character. They start rewriting your reality, and that is where gaslighting begins. And it often escalates into intermittent reinforcement. The addiction that keeps people emotionally trapped even when they can see the abuse.